all of which were created while we were sort of brainstorming different ideas about what would be most effective. But it was really interesting that I think almost all of them came out of the kids. There's like a funny moment in the third clip, which we'll get to. But
yeah, these are all the kids that work with us. There we go. So in each of these videos, the kids we were talking to sort of explained to us what they wanted to see in the project. So for example, in this video, they sort of talk about the end concept.
You were going to work on Secret Agent.
It was somebody who's going to go away and do like a beginning, middle, end. So
oh, good.
Go back to the beginning and go forward to the end. You're seeing
oh, nice.
Like before us and what it might look like after us.
What they were thinking was like during these transitions, the music changes. So they're talking about time changing throughout the whole project experience. They want to see differences between perhaps in the past and where we're going in the future.
Buildings and pollution and highways and flowers all those types of stuff like that. But then afterwards it says something about how that future is not set in stone, and that's the only part that isn't changed about the past is already done, the present we're already living in, but the future is the only thing that's like we just kind of made up.
I'll just maybe speak to this as well. It's the reason I'm kind of blabbering on, but one of the big challenges was that there were two different classes that were both creating the idea of the project at the same time, and these were ideas that were developed by Esme in the second film. Yeah.
So the reason I'm saying that, and the reason originally came up with, actually, Angelina, you were the one who originally came up with the hydrangea for us. Do you remember?
No, Andrew. Oh, no.
You guys don't want to take responsibility for this now? It's such a beautiful idea. So the reason I'm saying that, and the reason I'm kind of going back to you guys, is because when you first saw it in your head, what did you see? Say that again, I can't hear you. Go ahead.
Our original idea was an art project hydrangea.
Okay. And what do you mean art project?
It would be like a sculpture of hydrangea. And then you could slide the pH scale to show like the effect of different pH levels of the flowers on hydrangea.
Oh, okay.
So that was the main gist. She wanted to see the hydrangeas change color through pH levels. And this is Milo sort of talking about the message behind the project.
And little things around that can make a flower more beautiful, but we're going too fast, and we're gonna seriously hurt them.
Yeah, no, and that's partially.
Wait. I want to understand the small changes thing.
Like something like small, like the pH level, can make a flower a little more beautiful to someone, right? Like someone whose favorite color is blue, they're gonna think that a small change from purple to a little more indigo or blue, they're gonna think that makes it more beautiful. And the same for someone who thinks pink is prettier.
Does that actually happen to hydrangeas?
Yeah, it does. Like if there's stuff you can buy where you put it.
It was an interesting question to pose, and it was like really nice to see animated in the process.
Anyway, so once that happened, I talked about this a little bit already, so we can sort of breeze past it, but we started drawing assets, and what was great about this is we were just able to take photos of them there and talk not only about like how this was going to work conceptually, but what maybe the steps I was going to be taking technically would be to turn them into materials, and then that way by seeing that process, the kids had even more ideas about assets to generate, and it was a nice little kind of cyclical thing that happened in the span of like one class, which was really nice. So the next slide, it just shows the conversion into the assets themselves and sort of the final ones that we were going with to populate the scene, and the color palettes and all that stuff were sort of kind of collaboratively constructed by us and the kids.
And in the end, like nearly everything in the entire experience was made by the kids that Griffin turned into beautifully, such as here.
Yeah, this was just an example of the assets finally in Unity and how they're being used as materials for the scene, like for the clouds, but also models like the factory, and even like the smoke and stuff were made from like particles that the kids were drawing. And then by turning that into smoke and stuff like that, we could see how those things were being created and talk a little bit about that process, which is cool.
Yeah, so this picture right here is some of the buttons that were used inside the dome to create the interaction. So the yellow one was dropping all the water bottles in the projection itself inside the dome, and then the middle one, it was dropping, it was creating the factories, and it was also generating the smoke from the tubes of the factory on the top. And then the last one, it was generating cars, and they were also dropping from the sky. So yeah, and the reason we make these buttons, it's because obviously kids are super interested into just getting feedback overall when they're pressing stuff and just like seeing what's actually happening. And like by then pressing it, they can see that there's an action, right? And it can demonstrate what a car or a water bottle or a factory can do to the environment and to the platinums too.
And one thing that we unfortunately didn't get on video, but I think was a really critical moment in the development process was when we were talking with Milo and with everyone else in the group about what the main interaction was going to be that would change time in this sort of scene that we were building. And originally it was like a slider that you'd slide back and forth, and we sort of realized that that might be a really, they would just sort of play with it, see the effects, and be done in a second. Milo brought up this idea of having people press buttons because he was like, well, I know that people like to just, if you see a shiny button in front of you, you'll want to press it over and over and over again. And then we were thinking about relating that interaction to a metaphor about making these incremental changes that end up sort of affecting something in a significant way. And it was really interesting because I think I was reflecting on it afterwards and thinking about how that was really a conversation about interaction design and about how to get people to engage with this in a more meaningful way than just sort of coming in and seeing it and walking out. So yeah, the buttons, I think that was a really big moment in making the project, in my eyes.
And that was really nice to see them come up with it.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate that video wasn't there, but like when they came up with it, we were like, oh yeah, that sounds really cool. So we
and also much simpler than like all of the sort of ridiculous like ideas that I was like trying to bring to the table.
Yeah.
And it made so much more sense. Very effective.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was just some sort of process images of us making the flowers together. The first was when I just brought in an example based on what we were talking about, and then the second and third, the final projection on the right, are all after the kids have seen it and we're in the class and we're changing the materials together, talking about all the transitions, and at the bottom we like added water and all of the little other plant life and stuff like that. Yeah. And then after that, one of the big sort of technical challenges was just figuring out how to get it to map correctly to the dome. And this is just showing the different shots of the final experience, as they would be projected. And first, you just have this sort of like really nice breezy scene, and then time starts speeding up. You see this day-night cycle, and then all of this stuff just starts to fall down and pollute the environment, and the flowers become pretty beautiful, but then sort of like wither and fade away.
And so we move on to the dome aspect. So what we wanted to do in the dome, well, what we did in the dome, is that we sort of projected that scene into this Buckminster Fuller dome. It was like 20 feet wide in diameter, and we used a spherical mirror to sort of direct the light to the curve of the dome. And this is our project architect, Jose. He was absolutely wonderful. He sort of built the entire thing with his class, and he used zip ties to sort of connect the joints together so that it could be reusable. You don't have to like cut them out. You just have to retie them and such like that. This is his class that sort of worked on the project. They sewed the entire thing, the fabric used to project onto. It was really an incredible feat. And it took a long time. This is the dome being built in our classroom in Parsons. It just fit, which was wonderful. So the dome is made up of 6 pentagons and 5 hexagons. I could be wrong. And in the final construction on Earth Day, it had a door flap that would minimize the reduction of light coming in, because we needed that light to sort of project into, like, it was like really sunny that day. Like, I didn't think it would be that sunny, but it was really sunny. This is it. Oh. Well, do we have to see it? Like,
This is a time lapse of setting up the dome?
yeah, deconstruction of the dome.
Oh.
Yeah, but yeah.
We can skip past it.
we
This
can
will
skip
take a
that.
while to get access.
Yeah, we should skip it in interest of time.
So problems and future resolutions. So what happened at sort of Earth Day was that the light was still coming through. I'm so tired of this reason. And we, in the future, sort of want to use like a stronger projector, just so that we can see the animations more clearly, and more tests could be done like in the dome, because we actually had like 2 tests within like the full dome.
I think that's the main thing to say about that, is just that testing earlier with the sort of final medium that we were talking about the entire time, I think would have helped us both maybe come up with more interesting ways to engage that sort of surrounding environment with the kids, and also to have dealt with some technical issues that ended up sort of kicking off the end.
It's the same scenario for the buttons. We weren't able to really test them as much as we wanted to. So since there was like some technical difficulties with like the computers and the buttons being laggy and having a delay, and also and yeah, we had to like fix them and go back and have like use the computer and sort of like fake the buttons working, so like kids would get excited and like they could actually see the actions happening on the dome itself. But yeah, that would be another thing that we would have to test more and like keep working on.
So these are scenes from Earth Day, but these are basically people waiting outside. We had like a full crowd throughout the whole day. At one point, Aneshka came in and sort of narrated the experience, and that was really helpful because we were all really tired. And it sort of like explained what was going on about the whole experience. This is us, whole group. Here's Milo. Oh, I think this is really oh well. But like this was a video about the whole
Just
video.
click request.
At the end,
You can click request and I'll just put it
it's for Griffin. It's okay. So at the end of the whole experience, we had this sort of sentence at the end that sort of commentated on what we wanted to, like the message that we wanted to say. And it's the more we pollute, the harder it is to turn back time. And that sort of resonated with the kids a lot, because they were always going on about how we're going too fast, like pollution is like exceedingly changing our environment way too fast, and it's at the point where we can't sort of go back to where beautiful to see. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah.